And then the creator said, I want to introduce you to those brothers that crawl on the bottom of the ocean. You're going to meet the crab. He was not always a crab in his younger days. He was on the land, and he lived on the land. But I want you to know on this story, this story of the crab is important because it's going to teach us something about who we are. So I brought this crab with me. It's called Eichach. It's a crab that my grandsons caught when they were out fishing crabs. The story of Eichach is about two brothers who couldn't get along. Every time they saw each other, they would fight. Two young deer, young bucks. They had just two little horns sticking out like that. And every time they see each other, they would bump heads and fight and kick and do everything to hurt each other. And the one brother, he got tired of fighting, so he walked away from his brother and he walked down to the ocean. And when he was down the ocean, he saw it was so peaceful. He could hear the waves. He could hear the rocks rolling back and forth when the wind was blowing it. And he liked it so much that he wanted to stay there, but he wanted to go and see his brother. So he went back to his brother, back up to the mountain where his brother lived.
Tiltelema just lays in it Huchashel. Ivan Morris the main lot just lay it Huchashel. Madeline Morris the tain lot just lay it Akuchin. I said this in Chathan Huchi Stanek Eshla lay at Bayside School out. Jason the Apenix Flew Stelining Eshla lay.
Probably then a snake just lays in a chocolate.
I'd not done a snake just lays in a chocolate.
Andrew then a snake just lays in a Saanich.
Abby then a snake just lays in a Saanich.
TV into the snake just to let us know for chocolate.
Michaela and a snake just lays in that chocolate.
Ramon and the snake just lays in that for Saanich.
Layla and a snake just lays in that for Jocelyn.
Shane saw us now with Saanich. Yes.
Kate then a stage just less than that with Saanich.
Troy and a snake just lays in that with chocolate.
Eric then a snake just lays in that with Saanich.
Danielle finished now to Soleas and with chocolate.
Conrad then a snake just lays in a golden.
My name is Dano Underwoods. I'm from the Sayo First Nation. I've been here working at Bayside since the beginning of the school year. I've been working with the Sinchothan class in Ivy. We've been putting together a documentary film.
I think it's important to teach Sanchathan in schools because if I go right back to the residential school experience, because of that experience, there's a generation gap.
Media is an opportunity for students to be able to explore and express themselves.
And I did notice too that it's like it was a puzzle that they needed to put together.
I think with technology today, things like cell phones, we're able to capture moments, whether it's in photography, whether it's in film. There's opportunity to be able to share each other's experience.
That's kind of opened their eyes when they heard our elder Tom Sampson speak.
In a classroom like this, it's nothing wrong with being in a classroom, but the real world, the real teachers are outside of this building.
I think media actually is one of those places where we can start to capture some of that, whether it's through language. The language itself is such a vital component.
A highlight is that with the students that we're working with in this project is I don't think they really realized at first that they were learning about the past, the present, and then thinking about the future of the language and the culture.
A lot of adults, even including myself, aren't fluent in the language.
And it's sad that a lot of people in my generation, I'm one of the youngest in my generation, who had access to learning the language, whereas the older ones in my generation didn't. It's our parents who either were in the Indian day school or the residential school who were not allowed to speak their language. So we're facing that generation gap that didn't get or didn't have the access to learn the language. So we have all these wonderful students coming through here, doing their best to learn it the best they can so they can pass it on to the next generation.
Life is an experience. Not one of you in this room are going to have the same experience. Each one of you will have a different experience. But the stories, the legends that we talk about, is the balance what we call Niskoche Chanetang Chitskoche Astelno Chitskoche Konsquenal Mittung. Know the human power, but you also have to know the spiritual power, because those two are the balance of who you are. Each one of you are like that, no matter where you come from. So he went back to his brother, back up to the mountain where his brother lived, where they lived. When he got there, his brother was still angry and mad. And he just ran after his brother and he started hitting him with his horns. And they start fighting. And again, he got tired and he walked away and he went down to the ocean again. And he sat there, then he walked into the water. And he said, "This is good. This is comfortable. I like it here." And after he felt calmed down and he felt better, he went back up to the mountain to see if his brother was okay now. But he got there and his brother was angry, mad again. And they start fighting, and again his brother walked away and he went down to the ocean. And when he went down there, this time he walked right into the water. He walked up to his waist and he felt so good. He was walking around and it felt so cool and comfortable, the ocean. And he said, "I would really like to stay here. I want to stay here at the ocean." But he wanted to see, he wanted to know if his brother would quit fighting with him. So one more time, he returned back to the ocean, the mountain where his brother lived, where they lived. They got there and his brother was angry. Wondered, where did you go? How come you were gone? And then they'd start fighting with their horns and hurting each other. And the brother felt so bad, he walked away again. He walked to the ocean. When he got to the ocean, this time he went right into the water. His head, his whole body went into the ocean. And when he was there, he felt so good. He said, I want to live here.
One of the things that I wanted to do is to just acknowledge the students in their work. Individually, I think that there's been some leaps and bounds for a lot of the students, and one of the people that I wanted to acknowledge was Dwayne. He played a pretty significant part of this. He was always here. He was, always on time, and he really put forward a good effort. I wanted to say thanks to all of the students.
I'm Colby. I'm in Div 8-2.
Colby, I really appreciate the input that you came with on a regular basis and your insight to the culture and the Saanich people. There's a lot of history that you know and that you have just basically on memory, and I think that was something that I really enjoyed listening to.
My name is Andrew and I'm in Division 8-3.
Andrew, same with Andrew. A lot of ideas, a lot of great ideas for the project in itself. We were able to use a locker scene that the group that they designed that day, so it was something that's I wanted to just say thanks.
I'm Ramon and I'm in Division 8-2.
Ramon was a great addition to the group. I know when we did the locker scene, he just kind of jumped in, so I was glad that he just kind of took that risk.
I'm Danielle and I'm in Division 8-2.
Danielle, you came to class, you're always smiling, you're happy to be here.
I'm Layla and I'm in Division 8-3.
Layla, great, right? The language piece, you really have it down. Yeah, I encourage you to continue that.
So I'm Panina, I'm in 8-2.
Panina, again, your enthusiasm, though I was the first one to wanting to go on exercises, the first one to do check-ins, those kinds of things. I just wanted to say thanks.
My name is Tavian Henry and I'm in Division 7-2.
Tay was here drawing quite a bit. I appreciate if we were able to kind of hone that in one of the exercises, and I just appreciate the artistic ability.
Eric Brahan, 7-2.
Eric has some artistic ability that's, if they continue to practice, they'll be able to do things like animation.
I'm Conrad and I'm in Division 8-4.
Conrad, he was such a great addition to the group. His partner in crime, Caden, I think for the both of them, they were always here. Days that we were asking to film a little further beyond what was expected, and they did that. So I appreciate that for Conrad and Caden.
I'm Troy McLeod, Division 7-2.
Shane Jones, 7-2.
Troy and Shane, just the sense of humor are always kind of goofy and comedic throughout the class, and it just kind of helped lighten things, especially if things were getting stressful as far as filming days. That kind of sense of humor, you can actually really see it in the outtakes.
I'm Kaylee and I'm from Division 8-2.
For Julie and Kaylee, you guys, I know that we were kind of hit and miss here and there, and you guys just came and you jumped in.
I'm Julie and I'm in Division 8-2.
So that's something I encourage you to continue to do in your high school years, is just don't be afraid to jump in and don't be afraid to ask for help. I appreciate being able to see you guys in the community. You guys will wave or say hi.
I'm Michaela and I'm in 8-3.
Michaela, I really appreciate the inspiration that you came with. You always came, you were here, and you took some risks. There were some shots that we have, and you were just kind of the centerpiece of that specific shot, and you weren't afraid to jump in. So again, I appreciate that. Gloria, same thing. It was kind of hit and miss here and there, but when you came, you did step in and work together with everybody.
Abigail Samard in Division 7-2.
What I appreciate about Abby was her commitment and focus. She came in and worked hard during all of the classes and wasn't afraid to get in front of the camera or behind the camera. Wasn't intimidated by the equipment, and She was just great to have with the rest of the class.
Edna Ellsworth in Division 7-2.
Edna was the strong, silent type when she came in, very quiet, didn't say much, but was quite focused and committed to a lot of the exercises and writing. I hope that whatever she takes on through the rest of her middle school and high school years, she takes as far as she can, because her commitment and dedication showed to a lot of the work we did in front of the camera as well as behind. I was quite impressed with her ability when she was working with the camera and the microphones, and she wasn't afraid to just jump right in. I think for myself, what I appreciate about doing a project like this with the young people is I always tell my students that I learn more from them than they do from me. It brings students and teachers, administrators together, and that window of opportunity in learning, because that's a pretty crucial part. It's being able to learn from each other. So thanks to all of you guys. Appreciate all of the work.
Chilangan, it comes from two words, Chilangan. The first part of Cha means where Chilea. Chilangan is where you are from. And it's Chilangan, the last part of that word, Chilangan, Nishkuchen, Chilangan. This is your birthright. So the word it sort of identifies the place you're from. See, Chilangan is come from the word Chilea, where you are from. And the Chilangan is the teaching of where you're from.
Hola, Bochni. Nazdar. Ni hao. Konnichiwa. ¿Cómo estás? Jak se máš? ¿Estás bueno? Ni mahama. Mi nombre es Oscar Curiel. 我名字叫 Angela Wang. Já se jmenuji Jonáš Koč. Puedo hablar español y inglés. Já můžu mluvit česky a anglicky. 我会说英文和中文。私の学校は Bayside Middle School. Yo voy a Bayside. Já jdu do Bayside. 我上学在 Bayside Middle School. Me gusta mis amigos. Já mám ráda jít do školy s mými kamarádi. 我喜欢 Bayside 因为朋友和老师们。私はお友達好き。¿Qué es cultura? Co je kultura? Tenga un buen día.
The mix of multicultural within this school, I think there's opportunity for students to be able to learn from that as well. We did have students come and introduce themselves in different languages. It was a part of just a suggestion that one of the students had.
And when he was there, he felt so good. He said, I want to live here. I want to live here forever. And the Creator heard him. And he came forward. The young deer walked out of the water. And he told the Creator, I don't want to go home. I want to live here forever. And his brother, the Creator, said, I can't let you do that, because you're not fixed for living in the water. You're not from the ocean. But if you want to stay here, I can let you. But you gotta, once I let you stay here, you can't go back up to the mountain again. You're gonna have to live here forever. And he says, I want to do that. I don't want to fight with my brother no more. I don't want to go home. So the Creator, they say, according to this story, he reached out and he transformed this young deer, young buck, changed him into a crab. Now you're going to stay in the ocean. You can't go back up to the mountain. But I'm going to leave something with you so that you'll know who you are. You're going to have to remember that you were not always a crab. You were a deer, just like your brother. So what the Creator did, he took the crab shell, and he put the face of a deer. You can see the face, and you can see his horns, and on this side you can see the fur of the deer. You can pass it around, let everyone take, but you can see the face. You see the face there? You can see the face of the deer. And that's to remind us of who we are. Even though he changed from a deer into a crab, the Creator was able to tell him, this is who you are, and this is who you will always be.
I'd like to share a quote from an elder I've heard when I was in my 20s or 30s, that the Saanich territory was once known as a paradise. And I totally have loved that quote because it brings me to think about when I was at middle school age, when I used to go outside and play out.
And it was just so different back then compared to now. Like, we can just go to the store.
They didn't have a store, and now at a store you can just go and buy food.
In the past, they spoke fluently in Saanich.
Gathered their own food by like hunting and fishing and stuff. And then when they needed to travel, they would travel by canoe.
That we used canoes to get around in the ocean, and they were kind of like highways.
That they have like summer houses and like winter houses.
I learned a lot more detail about a lot of the stories, like flood story, a lot of the stories told by the elders.
And they were more cultural.
Probably getting to learn the stories about some Saanich characters, like the Creator.
I guess for the language part, when we first became people on this land, many thousands and thousands of years ago, the Creator gave us a language, but there was already a language here.
When I was a little girl, I remember my late mother taking me to visit her family, and that was in Couch, and so, I was first introduced to the Halkami'nam language, so I do understand Halkami'nam too.
But a language that we didn't understand. And this is where the beginning of our people, the language, starts. It starts with being called forward by the Creator.
The difference in the language then and the language now is that, just to recall that, thinking that little girl sitting there listening to those elders, the language was so beautiful. They would just sing it out. It sounded so beautiful. And today we don't hear that anymore. A positive thing is that there's these students who are willing to learn the language the best they can while they're in education.
In the past, there's like trees everywhere. Now there's lots of roads. We used cars, and then they used canoes.
I guess there'd be some people that ride canoes a little bit less, maybe not as much speaking in Saanich and not as fluent as people used to be.
In the past, everyone lived in one place.
We all lived in like one house.
Long houses.
Like another one. Like they had like a little house and stuff, and like one big family stayed in them. There's like yeah, in his longhouse.
And now they all like have their own houses.
Not very many people are doing such things as canoe carving or canoe racing.
They made their clothes. They could just go to a store and buy their clothes like we can now.
So the culture and language doesn't die off, and so we can teach it to the later generations when our elders today are gone, so we can keep it going.
And the teachings can stay with us.
Because if we don't learn some Choctaw right now, not many people are gonna know how to speak it.
The teachings that we carry, the teachings that are in the language are carried on to the next generation.
Just so they can know like where they're from.
So they could pass the knowledge and everything else that they've learned onto their children.
The language and culture doesn't just fade away.
It would be very sad to see a language that is part of you and your own culture to kind of go away.
And so that more people can know about the culture.
And to keep the traditions up because they're traditions and you don't want to lose them because they're a part of you and they're very important.
What I dream of, what I hope is that our generation gap will say, hey, I need to learn our language.
As young people, we want to be something else and somebody else. Sometimes we follow the crowd, and sometimes we get into trouble, and sometimes we hurt one another. That's why we tell this story. And if you listen carefully to the story of the Creator gave us an example of what happens when we fight inside the family. Sometimes it's sister against sister, brother against brother, and this happens. These stories are important to all of us because it shows us that even though we can change, we can become something else. That the Creator gives us examples and stories and legends that remind us. That's why the Creator put the face of a deer on a crab.
Shane's gonna snap. Yeah.
Okay, we'll go for a stop. Okay, go there. For a moment.
Kayla finished nature selection at chocolate.
Okay, action. Okay, we can close that. We'll start again. You okay? That's all right. You can go back to starting.
Edna than a stage left.
Okay, we'll go again. Still rolling. No worries. No worries.
Gosh, Daniel.
Troy's on the stage as a listener who's child.
How's Conrad gonna feel?
Okay. So,
Ave gonna say.
we'll start again. No worries.
That's the first line.
Edna than a stage left. Just listen without look.
Eric's on a snake, slice, nut, shot lip. Oh yeah, no.
We'll go again.
I said wrong.
Edna on a stage till I can't do it.
Michaela on a stage just listen at Chas.
It's okay. Make sure you close the locker.
Eric's on a stage, slays nut.
Nope. Locker.
I forgot.
You need to go back in.
Edna's on a stage to listen at Charlotte.
We'll start again. Okay, quiet on set, you guys.
Edna's on a stage to listen.
That's okay. We'll get you started. For your poetry, and you were creating.